right, being 8:30, let's kick it off. So we've got Amit joining us today, and we're going to be talking on being agile with visibility and predictability. So a little bit about Amit. He is actually an alumni member of ours, and we've got to know him a few months ago. And Amit is currently a senior agile coach with many years of experience leading agile initiatives for global and financial and technology organizations. Um, he's overseen numerous engagements, and I think if I'm not wrong, he's guided a lot of large enterprises in implementing scaled agile at all levels. So I'm quite excited to have him here with us. So what we're going to do is we have created a quick Zoom manifesto for all of us here in the room. And Amit, do you want to just switch our slides for us? Perfect. So in our Zoom manifesto, we are all here for one reason, and that is to learn together. So we've got the chat box, which is there for all of you. And I think all of you have done a great job with putting in your answers to panelists and attendees. So you've got that option where you can send messages only to panelists also, but we would recommend keep it as ensure your setting is at panelists and attendees so everyone can see your message. And when there are questions asked, because Amit's going to be asking a lot of questions and we would love to see a lot of engagement. So do use your chat box to the fullest. The deck that is the presentation will be emailed to all of you after, probably tomorrow later in the day, plus the webinar is being recorded. So you will receive a link to watch the recording also for later on. And we do have a small time that we have allotted for question and answers. Also, there is a section here in our webinar tool that lets you put in questions in the Q&A section. So your chat box is different, your Q&A section is different. I recommend put your questions in the Q&A because it's easier for us to track your questions because they can get lost in the chat time and again. Our webinar is going to be for about 45 to 60 minutes, and we aim to finish in that 60 minutes. So looking forward to it. And a little brief about us at Leadership Tribe. So I'm sure a lot of you, I see some familiar names. You've been part of our webinars, and it's lovely to see all of you. As Leadership Tribe, we support various organizations with leadership roles, with tools, techniques, and many more important things like skills and even driving value. And working with various organizations, leaders, coaches, and focus groups to share wisdom of the tribe, create sticky learning, we are building high performance organizations, and most importantly of all, giving back to the community. I think that is one thing that really is important for us. And on this note, I'm not going to take more time of yours. Amit, I'm going to pass it on to you to take it forward.
Thank you, Aarti. Thank you for that wonderful introduction and the background. Hey, everyone. Thank you for spending time with me. So today, as the topic suggests, I am going to talk about what is being agile, right? I mean, we all hear about agile. We got a ways to go. We got it's an open methodology, so obviously one size doesn't fit all. So how do we go about it, right? Like it's and like it or not, there is no silver bullet to it, right? So we're trying to, before we get into how to implement agile, right, it's very important to understand why we even thinking about agile. What is being agile, right? So we're going to talk about that. As Aarti said, this is going to be an interactive session, so I invite a lot of participation. This is going to be less of me presenting and speaking to, I mean, I'd certainly speak to my experiences and quote examples, but I'd like to understand where you're coming from, what do you see, and then have conversations around it, and have thoughts about what to for here. Once we kind of discover and agree on what's being agile, what does it mean to be agile, then we talk about, okay, what is visibility? How does it help? Is it beneficial to have visibility? And what if we don't have visibility, right? And what is visibility? Like at what level? And we're going to talk about the different levels of visibility. And then what's predictability? Why is it important? Why should we care about it? Why should organizations care about it? So a lot about that. And then briefly, we'll talk about how to achieve visibility and predictability. Of course, there's again, There's no formula to this. There are multiple approaches to this, and every organization, every team looks at it differently. But we'll talk through some of the examples. We'll go through a case if the time allows us, depending on how much time allows us to go into greater detail or not. But we'll certainly touch upon that, how to achieve visibility and predictability. And I like to have to hear questions throughout the presentation. So if there are questions that you have, feel free to bring those to fore. If the questions are relevant to the topic that we're talking about, we'll take it at the time. If there are parking lot questions, we probably use the Q&A section at the end for the questions that we need to answer but may not be the right time. There might be some other questions that I'll answer anyways through the rest of the presentation. So if I don't respond to your question right then, there is a reason why I am not. All right, so quickly let's start this conversation going, right? So what does agile mean to everyone? Like what does it mean for you to be agile? Let's just ask that question. Let's understand from our audience here. What do you think agile is? Like, why be agile? And again, look for the chat window, what people think, what does being agile mean to them? Takes handcuffs off. Wow, interesting. Agile is a mindset for sure. Adaptability, fluidity, yeah. Fast, adaptive, flexible. Absolutely. Responding to change opens creativity. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Collaboration. That's a good one too. Awesome. Great. Sweet to, oh wow, yes, 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 exactly. This is all good stuff for being agile. All right, so now that we understand why be agile, right? Agile is not about implementing a methodology, a Scrum, a Kanban. Those are ways and means and how to implement agile. Oftentimes, people miss the bigger picture. People miss the fact that large organizations, miss the fact that we're looking to be agile by, let's say, achieving faster time to market or building high quality product or something else. Every organization is different, so every organization has its own vision to get there. But oftentimes, especially larger organization, sometimes they get lost so much in the processes, it's so much into the methodologies, they tend to miss out the big picture or tend to lose the big picture. And that's what being agile is all about. Is not about processes, not about how do we make a daily stand-up work better. It's more about why is daily stand-up important, for example, right? And of course, everything that we do, how does it line back to the vision of the organization to be agile? Not just put a rubber stamp and say we're agile because we're doing all these scrum ceremonies or we have a Kanban board and whatnot, right? So being agile is super important, keeping that vision every single time. Like with anything else, right? We have a business proposition. Let's say our business we're building a product, we're building a website or something. There is a vision to that, right? Why we're building a web page or a portal or an application. What is it going to give us back, right? It's the same way agile transformations need to have a vision, and why a certain organization needs to have that vision to align with that. And then the processes come and say, okay, now that we know we're going to go faster to market, what are the things that we need to address? Maybe it's identifying what's the minimal increment of work that or product that we need to release. Maybe there are certain engineering best practices. Maybe a combination of those two will just get us to market faster. So again, every organization is different. The needs of the organizations are different. A financial organization may have a completely different vision. Maybe they care more about predictability, maybe they care more about quality, as opposed to maybe a retail organization might see agile as a tool or a methodology to help get greater predictability or get to market faster. So again, every organization is different, and as I said earlier, it's not never one size fit all. So every organization has their own vision. Some of the examples that I've quoted here, and I think you guys have covered it more than I have here, of course, is greater time to market, predictability, visibility, alignment of work with outcomes. This is actually, I should have placed this as number one, because there are a lot of organizations that tend to build solutions without realizing the outcomes that they're trying to cater to. So that alignment between the outcomes, roadmaps, whatever they're building, to how the product that they're building kind of meets with, and making sure that every single team and every part of the organization is kind of fitting that alignment, is super, super important. So we'll talk more about it, but these are some of the examples of being agile. Do we have any questions so far, or should I just continue? I don't see anything on the Q&A, so I'll keep going. All right, what's next? All right. Oh, I should not be sharing that screen. Okay, so now what's visibility, right? Let me ask multiple questions here, but one thing at a time. What does visibility mean to you? Let's shoot some thoughts there in the chat. Transparency, yeah, don't, no question marks there. Definitely transparency. Sure, accountability, trust, absolutely. State of progress, my end goal. Okay. Go to person to see is what is my team and all other teams around me. Insight, communication, trust, super important. And confused on state of progress. Team needs status. Yeah. Range of vision. Great, great. Absolutely. Mm, recognition of work being done. Great, awesome, great thoughts there. Excellent thoughts there. So I think it is a lot of what you just said, right? Visibility is, again, communication, transparency, collaboration, trust. It is a lot of those things, right? Like, it provides a lot of those things. I think the next question that I'm going to ask you is, um, um, at what level do you expect visibility? There are different levels in the organization, right? Like, what are the different levels that come to mind when you talk about visibility? And I'm not going to give you examples because that's probably answers. So what do you think are the all of them? Okay, what different levels are we thinking about for visibility? Top to the lowest, all, C level, team, sure, all. I think we probably need more elaboration on all. Sponsors, sure, sure. PU, and yeah. Team program portfolio, yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's great. Now, of course, these different levels, there is a certain level of visibility that each stakeholder at these different levels, whether it's team, individual, program, portfolio, enterprise, there are different levels, and there is different level of information that people care about. And I think that's the key that we want to establish here is visibility is important, but do I, let's say a stakeholder or a business stakeholder, care about the velocity of the team, for example, right? So I may want to see it somewhere, but I don't really care about it, right? Like, my level of visibility might be more around, I have a product going into market. How do we make sure, is it on track? Are we building the right product, or is it going to the market on time? Quality, and some of the level of visibility that a stakeholder might care about might be very different than maybe a team would care about, a scrum master may care about, or a product owner may care about. So again, that's the different levels of visibility that is important. And a stakeholder may need a different level of visibility and may care about other aspects of visibility as opposed to a team member or someone in between. So again, respecting that and making sure that we have that right level of visibility, and establishing that connection between the outcomes and the vision of the organization or the product or business, with everything that any individual, any teams are undertaking and delivering is established, and you get the right visibility in that level. So that's where trust comes from. That's where, a greater communication, collaboration comes from. I mean, of course, there's a lot of conversation, communication, talking that happens, but again, at the same time, you want to give your stakeholders, you want to give your team members enough insights into what's going on, get that visibility so that they know exactly what they're getting into. So again, visibility, I've put in a brief description here. A powerful means to help surface the unknown from the covers of intuition, so everyone stay in sync, right? A lot of times you'd hear, without data, people would come back and say, you know what, I think the project is on track. And then you go back and ask them, how far along are we? Are we 50% through, you know, work wise, or, velocity wise, or story point wise, versus 50% through on the duration? Then sure, you're on track. But if it's all intuition, it's not data, it's not, anything real that supports that intuition, then we have a problem, and we want to fix that. And there are, again, multiple ways to fix that, but you want to bring some real numbers, you want to bring in some real um, data to support the findings. And most importantly, there will be times, and there are always times, I guess, when you will hear, oh, our product increment is going later to the market. So you want to see that reaction, that mitigation plan kick in sooner. And with real-time visibility, you're able to do that, as opposed to, oh, we thought we were on plan, but last week before the release, I don't know where we are. I think something goofed up and we did not account for it, and now we're not going to market next week. So we want to avoid that, and that's why visibility is very, very important. So again, some of the questions here, have you ever wondered how we tracking against our KPIs? Again, you have a roadmap, each roadmap item would have a KPI. Do we know how far along are we? Are we on track or not? How far along are we with our epics, features, stories, right? The overall contribution towards the larger goals. How do we see that, right? How are we doing against the time box goals? Like, if you're doing, let's say, a safe implementation, or a big room planning, if you have, let's say, quarterly goals, do we know if our quarterly goals that we set out for are on track or not? And if you're not, then there needs to be some fixing that needs to be done. So having those dashboards, reports be present early in the game is important, so that people are able to appreciate that, make adjustments, right? I've seen examples of dashboards where there are teams or programs or arts that are able to build a backlog. This is what we're going to be delivering in the next 3 months. And then they come back and say, okay, well, you know what, after we did plan for that 3 month, but again, changes are inevitable, we all know this. As we went through the first sprint, we realized there's a lot more that we did not even think about. And now that we know about it, we're now going to be able to add that to our backlog. So the business comes back maybe with new requirements, new user stories, features, whatever. Um, and the team, without visibility, without the right tools, they're either absorbing that to be able to just say, you know what, this is important stuff, this sounds like super important, we absolutely have to respect that because it's coming from business and it's super time critical. But they don't have the tools to back it up with data and say, you know what, this feature that you've just thrown on us is a 50-point feature. What this means is something else that we originally planned for, because we already planned the entire quarter. Something else that's equivalent to this feature will have to come out, and then have those conversations. So without visibility, it's really hard to be able to have those conversations, and get greater predictability, get greater visibility, get greater alignment. There's a lot that goes in there to have those conversations started. So again, that's why you get visibility to be agile, as opposed to, oh, we have visibility or we don't have visibility, let's just keep dumping things into the backlogs and see what comes out of it at the end of the other side, right? So we don't want to do that. So why is visibility important? Is absolutely. When what everyone sees drives action, right? If I'm a stakeholder and I know the plans are not on track, I will have some conversations with maybe my stakeholders, my customers or my team, and see what negotiations we need to have to maybe revisit our promises that we've made to go out to the market. So a lot of conversations, a lot of driving action. If I'm a team member, I'm a developer, and I see what our sprint goals are in jeopardy, maybe I'm done with my development work, but now my QA or someone on my team is struggling to do their work. Looking at that data itself, I'll be able to see where can I contribute most. So as a team, we're delivering one common goal. So again, visibility drives that action. And visibility is an important, again, powerful force in lieu of command and control. Again, you don't want a scrum master or a manager or someone telling you what to do. You're already seeing it in a tool, in a whatever format you use, to see what's going on, where are we, how far behind are we, how far ahead are we, maybe we can take more work or more backlog items, and demonstrating where we are, real time, maybe during the working software demonstrations. So a lot of visibility kind of helps us be agile, as opposed to we're just doing it because it looks good. Right? So we want to avoid that too. All right, so I see there may be a couple of questions. Any ideas on an approach to give visibility to product and sprint backlog to an entire organization, weekly email update to the org or something like this? Yes, so good question. I think it's important for us to realize that, we don't want an organization to be, what's the word I'm looking for, to follow some kind of a status reporting, right? It's more interactive, more collaborative. What I've found useful in my previous experience is dashboards help a lot, and I've built bad dashboards for at different levels. At a enterprise level or portfolio level, you'd have dashboards which will speak to larger goals. What's the entire initiative, how far along with the initiative are we, are those initiatives aligned with the roadmaps, the outcomes that the organization cares about. So there are tools to support that, and real time you'll be able to see, oh, we're 20% done, okay, next week we're 22% done. So you'll have those dashboards instead of weekly emails or status updates or deck. You'd see those coming to action, because now these these pick up data directly from the user stories that the teams are working on and getting accepted. So that's one powerful way. And again, that's the example that I just gave you is at a portfolio level, but then it translates into program level, team level, and there are, again, as I said earlier, the different levels or different types of reports that you could build to communicate with your stakeholders, and say, at your level, dashboard number one is executive dashboard, for example. Dashboard number two is more program dashboard. Dashboard number three is more team level dashboard. So again, different ways to go about it, but I would highly support and recommend more real-time dashboards as opposed to um, reports. You may come across executives who are used to dashboards, or sorry, not dashboards, but PowerPoint decks, which is normal. Again, nothing wrong with that. What I've seen work is, they like to see that transparency or that transition from they're used to, static decks. So for that transformation, maybe pick up screenshots from a dashboard, paste it in there, and then those dashboards can show them, and maybe copy paste a link at the bottom and say, for real time data, click on this link. So that usually helps. Next one, do you see visibility and transparency differently? That's a good one. I do not. I think both kind of marry into each other. Visibility is, getting yes, transparency at different levels. So if you're able to provide that, you're already being transparent, and I don't see that those definitely different spelling. That's the only difference I see. But I think at different levels you have different levels of visibility and transparency. What are we tracking in the dashboard? Story points. Not just story points. We probably are, but it's more than that. I think it's more of we have a plan. How are we doing against our plan? We have a feature that we're building. Are we on track? We have a let's say our alignment between roadmaps and the outcomes and the outputs, right? How do we know that everyone who's working on something is working on the right priorities? So a lot of that comes from the dashboard, and story points support it, but it's not just story points that we're tracking. It's much more than that. All right, moving on. I don't see any other questions. Anything on the chat that I should be seeing, Arti or someone?
Um, there was a long conversation which Tina has had with quite a few other participants, but I think they've helped her kind of understand.
Okay. So I'll keep going. And if there are questions that you by mistake put in the chat, I see 35 chats.
Absolutely. I'm keeping a track of that for you. So
Great, awesome. All right. So now from visibility to predictability. What's predictability? What does predictability mean to you? Now I'm going to chat. What does predictability mean to anyone? To everyone. You can see what is down the road for sure. What is coming, a right guess. Sure, yeah. Forecasting, risk mitigation, yeah. Forecasting the various, okay. Consistent, interesting. Known unknowns. Minimized uncertainty, yeah, that's a good one. Outcome. More structured planning to be able to say with certain degree what is the outcome. Mitigation is not predictability. Being able to identify the risks or uncertainty. Yeah, those are some good ones, right? So predictability, I think when I think of predictability, the number one thing that comes to my mind is, um, you know, are we equipped enough to be able to forecast? Are we going to be able to deliver what we promised to deliver on time? And if not, how far behind or how far ahead are we, right? So it's a powerful tool that equips the teams and the stakeholders to stay confident on the plans. If the plans are still on track, which again, real time, there will be changes, right? Change is inevitable. We all know it. And or pivot proactively as opposed to late in the game. That's super important, right? If I'm looking at, let's say, a burn up chart, and I'm seeing that, oh, we've got a 3-month plan, and during that, let's say this is a 3-month plan, and midway through we are 20% done with our plan, then you already know, or maybe probably even before that, you'll know we need to have a conversation about it and see what's something that we can do. How can we fix that? How can we maybe readjust our goals to be able to still deliver majority of what we needed to deliver, or maybe have conversations not just with the team but also with the stakeholders, that, you know what, we thought that we'll be able to deliver something in 3 months, but now that we're closer to this, we're seeing that we may need to be revising some of our goals. So predictability, the tool itself, provides the ability to have those conversations proactively, as opposed to late in the game. Oh, we're close to the release, I don't think we can make it for whatever reason. Maybe the definition of done was not understood properly, or maybe there was some tech debt that was left behind. Could be n number of reasons. So a lot of reasons could lead to a delay, but having those conversations based on real data helps. Again, some questions that I posed here. How does the team know when they achieve their goals? How do they know, right? How does a stakeholder understand risk to any plans? how to measure how far behind or ahead a team is, right? So again, data and conversations, communications, synchronizations, different ways to address some of these needs of the organizations. And again, there's no right or wrong way of doing it, as long as it helps drive that proactive understanding of where we are and how do we drive this forward. That's really what predictability is about. Why is it important? I think someone said earlier, the trust and confidence. So instill stakeholders confidence in plans with minimal variability, improves the team confidence and morale. All right, let's see if you got any questions. I'm also looking at the clock here. What are we tracking in? Oh, I think we covered that. What kind of tool would be used for the team level dashboard? Would it be possible to share a sample? I think so. I don't have one that's in front of me right now that I could share, but I think maybe after the call I can work with Arti to see if we can pull some examples and share it with the deck. But typically what you'd be looking at is, how's at a team level, you want to see more sprint level goals, right? And a level up from there, how are we contributing towards the quarterly plans or features that we're building towards. But most importantly, I think for a day-to-day work, the kind of dashboards that I've seen work best are, maybe a Kanban board, which would help the team be able to see what's really going on and how long anything's stuck in one queue. Kanban board is a good one. You'd see velocity charts, you'd see burn up, burn downs. That will help the team understand, are we on track, are we behind, and if we are behind, how do we work together to make this better, or uh, get greater visibility and predictability out of it. That's really it. All right, moving on. All right, so now let's look at a scenario, and here again, I'm going to ask you a few questions here, or not questions, but I would invite your participation here. So I'm looking at let's say hypothetically speaking, we have a scenario where Karen is a product owner vested in improving online sales of her cake shop, right? So Karen comes up with a vision. The product vision for her is become a trusted online retail store for cakes. Um, the KPI that she cares about is improve online sales through specialty cakes by 25% in 2022 Q2. So that's the scenario where we are, right? What happens now, right? This product owner is, hypothetically speaking, new to being a product owner. She doesn't know what's going on. How do we go about it? It's your first. She knows everything that she needs to know as a product owner. She knows the product that she has a vision. She has a bunch of features that she has in her mind. She knows a lot of things. But if you were to help Karen, what would you help her do after she has this vision and KPI defined? And that's where I'd invite your ideas. What's the next step here, in your opinion? Place a big order for the team, absolutely. Talk to customers to get the requirements. Okay, digital marketing specialist. Mm, market research, yeah. Market research is a good one. Ideate the steps to achieve the goals. Absolutely. Understand the current state, sure. Issue with the vision. Sure. What's the issue? How will the team drive there? Yeah, exactly. That's why this is not enough for the team. Um, why trusted? Yeah, I mean, I just came up with this because I feel like that's Karen's vision. Ask her. I don't know. But yeah, again, not going into too much of the verbs here or verbatums here, but more focused on what's next here, right? Did the competitors do something bad? Maybe, Maybe that's part of our market research, right? Some of people here have those thoughts here as well. Vision has to be accurate. Absolutely, it has to be. I agree. um True that. True that. Okay. So I think once you have understand the boundaries and resources, absolutely. So once you have a vision, once Karen has this vision and KPIs defined, now the next thing is you can't give this vision and KPIs to a developer and ask him to build something that gives me that 25% increase in sales, right? There is going to be a translation of this from the vision to some kind of a roadmap, right? How does this translate from this one sentence vision, ignoring the words and the accuracy of this product vision, to something that's more digestible, something that's more um, doable for the team. And that's where we bring in a lot of tools. You could right after this, you could work, maybe the Karen could work with her stakeholder. I think some of you said that, understand the market, what kind of features a customer may be looking for, what outcomes are we looking to drive. Maybe Q2 2022 is 4 quarters away, so we want to target 25% by then. But maybe there are many steps to it. Maybe we can increase 5% sales in the next quarter itself by, I don't know, maybe build a hard coded web page with just the phone number, and put it on number one search on the search engines and get some increased sales. Who knows, right? So those are the kind of conversations that Karen would now have, not just with the stakeholders but also with the team, and see how can we now, from maybe 0%, go to 25% in the next 3 or 4 quarters. So having that roadmap is the number one item that Karen would now work on building. So we know exactly, and this again, roadmaps are, a point in time. So roadmaps will evolve as Karen learns more, stakeholders learn more, teams learn more. But at least having that baseline of a roadmap, understanding, okay, next increment, we're going to stand up a web page, which is a bare minimum information, maybe a menu on that, maybe an ability to, I don't know, pay online or whatnot, or maybe not, maybe just cash on delivery, whatever that is. We're going to build that to increase our sales from 0% to 5%, Q3 of 2021. From Q3 to Q4, we're looking to go to 12%, and then so on and so forth. So I think having a roadmap with the right outcomes, and those outcomes driving towards these KPIs, is the right next step to build off of. And then of course the roadmap is more driven by outcomes. Now translate those outcomes into more of, backlog items, features, user stories, and again, having greater interaction, communication, collaboration with the team helps us get that. You have a backlog, you have a roadmap, you have a backlog. Then again, build the teams, have them the right technology, right support that they need, continue to build it. Now what we're doing in this process is not just building those artifacts. We are, in every step of the way, we are doing our best to get that alignment from the vision to roadmap to backlogs to execution, and to demonstrate what Karen's vision is, and then looping it back to the vision, say, okay, are we meeting this vision that Karen originally had for us? In some cases, the vision may undergo changes, right? It's the best guess that Karen came up with. This is what she knew a month before. But after all that wonderful work that Karen and team would do with each other, that may come to a different, they may just stick to it, right? Like larger organization, Amazons and, Microsoft, they've changed their vision over periods of time, because they've seen these organizations evolve from where they were to where they are today. So there's nothing in Agile or real world, in fact, is written in stone, right? We want to stick to our vision, but again, we don't want to stick to our vision just because we have a vision out there described. So again, having that alignment from vision to roadmaps to backlogs to execution, and looping back to the feedback loop is of immense importance. And at all these different levels, you need certain level of visibility and predictability. And these two tools will help Karen understand and her stakeholders understand, are we moving in the right direction? Do we have the right outcomes in place? The team sees it, the stakeholders see, everybody should see the roadmap so they know where they're moving towards, right? Oftentimes I've seen organizations, they build roadmaps and it's very private to business and business stakeholders. It again, it hurts the team if the team's not connected to the final outcome. You're doing disservice not just to the team but also to yourself by not bringing that level of transparency or visibility across the board. So again, different levels, different level of visibility, different levels of predictability, but again, it's all kind of comes together into that alignment from vision to roadmaps to anything and everything that the team does. So again, keep that in mind. And there are tools that I don't have visuals to support that, but there are tools that you'd be able to see at the beginning of of a certain period. We had, let's say, 200 points for the next 3 months of plan. As I'm speaking of a burn down chart, as you go down the track, you'd expect that there is an ideal line, and every sprint or every week the team is able to burn down a certain number of stories, and that gives us a predictability to, are we tracking and trending towards the goal by the end of the quarter or not. And if the answer to that is no, we're off, maybe our burn down chart is, or burn down line is moving far away from ideal line, that's when you have start having those conversations. And lots of factors that may come into play. Some maybe we underestimate the effort, there's a lot more that need to be done as opposed to what we thought earlier. Something else could be, changing priorities, other factors. There are lots of different factors that can play a role there, but the important piece is having conversations about what's real, what does the data tell us, and having that visibility real time, as opposed to waiting for intuition to tell us by the end of the quarter or whatever, to help support that. All right, let's see, there is a question, a bit off topic. Any thoughts on how to drive backlog items through OKRs? Yeah, so OKRs, as I was saying earlier, OKRs are nothing but the translation of, it's the term, of course, but it's really your roadmap, right? So you have outcomes um, that are there. You have some outcomes that are defined, and you're basically tracking towards those outcomes. In this example, for the cake shop example, you'd have some outcomes defined. Every quarter you will have some incremental outcomes, some key results or KPIs, as I was referring to earlier, that are mapped to the backlog. And then I'm seeing, will the recording of the, okay, so that's a different question. Yeah, so I think that's really what it is a roadmap with outcomes focused, and KPI, key results focused, as opposed to, I've seen roadmaps being written as, oh, we want to build a a login page, for example. That's not outcome. That's not, login page is a feature at best. It's definitely not an outcome, and we want to make sure that we stick to the outcomes so everyone knows not just what we're building, but why we're building it, what's the intended outcome, how's the customer going to benefit from it. So again, OKRs translate into outcomes and vice versa, and that's really what it is. All right, moving on. We are at 45. All right, so
There were a couple of questions that came up in the chat box. One was that someone was interested in seeing an example of the dashboards you mentioned. If you have that in hand, nothing more like it. Otherwise, probably we can share it offline over emails.
yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I think we'll probably have to work offline with you, Aarti, before we share the deck, maybe attach those.
Absolutely. And there was another question, where does product manager come into picture if we keep changing the vision?
Good question. So I think those are related, but I think those are two questions there. The product manager is there all along, right? The product manager is the one who not only defines the vision but also maintains the vision. And in some cases, editing the vision itself is also maintaining the vision. But if we keep changing the vision, which I think is the sentiment behind this question, I think you're right. A product manager needs to be thorough enough, needs to be able to think strongly enough, to do a lot of research before coming up with a vision. And again, as I said earlier, changing the vision is not a problem. Changing it too often is a problem, because then you're always trying to hit a moving target, which is not easy unless you're a professional shooter or something, right? So yeah, I hear the question. I think it's important that the product manager is able um, to live by the vision, and most importantly, communicate the change of a vision if there is one, and make sure that there are solid reasons and it's not happening too often. I hope that answers the question, but if not, let me know. Other questions, Arti?
Yes, there's one more that did come up. If product managers defines or maintains the vision, what does the product owner do?
Good question. Again, different organizations, different terminologies. Product manager, and this is a question that gets me a lot, is there are different methodologies, right? If you look at XP, a product manager is someone who is at a team level. If you look at another methodology, you'd have at Scrum, for example, you have a team level product owner, but a product manager oversees the big picture, right? The overall vision of the product. How does increment come in place? Kind of working with the product owners in the team level to ensure that there is sufficient alignment between the vision, roadmap, the outcomes of the roadmap, and the backlogs that the team. So there are, again, I don't know, when you say product manager, to me, I think it's a tricky role, because it's definitely, I think the most I have seen product manager role being used, if we ignore XP for a moment, is it's more of an overall product owner. It's more like a Uber product owner who oversees the overall vision, roadmaps, and execution quality of the product. So that's really a product manager. But yeah, the terms used differently in different organizations. All right, other questions?
At the moment, I don't see anything further.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So some lessons that I have learned, or seen, learned, of course, are these, and there are lots more. But again, the time and slide only allowed me this much real estate. So good enough is not good enough, right? We start somewhere. I think some of the sentiments that I was hearing earlier were, oh, the vision is not solid. What does a product owner do if we keep changing vision? And those questions you will come across all along. The important thing is to not pick on roles, not pick on people. The important thing is look at those behaviors and attitudes to see, are we able to live by the principle of continuous improvement, right? If I'm a better product manager than yesterday, I'm golden, right? I don't want to think of myself as a perfect person, right? If I'm evolving as a product manager, if I'm evolving as a developer, that's really what we should care about. And I think that's where being agile helps us to strive for, is no one's perfect, but are we learning through our behaviors? Are we learning from our experiences to get better at what we do from yesterday to tomorrow? That's really what agile is. Agile doesn't solve problems. Agile will surface the problem sooner with the tools like visibility, predictability, and is able to help have conversations to solve those problems. And those problems could be anything, right? It could be a problem related to not having consistent velocity. It could be a quality problem. It could be a vision problem. It could be alignment problem. There's so much that can go wrong with software development, and the complex world that we live in. that improving every day is not even optional. So that's important. Again, recognize that good enough is not good enough. Every day we're improving, and we're going to get better every day. Best plans are not written in stone, but evolve as a team's ability to predict improves. Again, we don't know if we're going to be able to. If it's a brand new team and you're asking a team to build a plan for 3 months, guess what? Plan's going to fail. But it's not really failing a plan. It's learning to be better next time. So again, improvement, identifying opportunities to predict better as the team gets more mature, as the program gets more mature, as an organization gets more mature, is really the key here. The only constant in life, and more so in product development, is change. I think we all agree, right? What I thought this morning, my morning would look like, or my afternoon would look like, might just be very different because a lot of different things around me moved, right? So we can't predict future. We can do our best to try and get better at it. But if I was to say, oh, 3 months down the line, we're going to deliver exactly the same product, and we are really hoping that the product will be exactly delivered, I would call that a miracle. It wouldn't be a plan. But yeah, it could happen, but theoretically, but I don't think I've ever seen that work exactly. But again, the important thing is embrace the change. How do you get more, your plans more adaptive? How do you make sure that you're able to respect the change around you, make it more consumable? I think that's the most important thing here. Last but not the least, inspired by Agile principle number 11, the best plans, solutions, and products emerge from empowered, self-organized teams. So again, as I was saying in the cake shop example, right? The Karen product owner example, it's Karen can't do anything on her own, right? No matter how adept she is as a product owner, it's always a collaboration. So you want to not just empower the product owner, but you also want to empower the team to be able to be a part of those conversations, be able to learn with the product owner. So again, two minds are better than one. And if you have, I mean, I'm not saying that too many cooks, we want to get into a too many cook situation, but you want to get the right people in the right time, at the right time, in the right place, to have those plans be more solid, solutions be more aligned with the vision and outcome, and the best products really emerge from there with the empowered, self-organized teams. All right. All right, so I see there is a question here. As a product developer, if we are working on collaboration with another team, and because of dependency on them, the stories got spill over into next sprint, then how will it impact my performance on this methodology? Because at the end, it shows my tasks are getting spilled over. That's a very common question. I think it's a little off topic. So if Sushmita, if you don't mind, I can stay back and answer your question later. But I think it's more kind of team dynamics question as opposed to what we're trying to achieve here. But I'm happy to answer this question, but I don't want 70 plus other people to be waiting online to answer this question. So if you're okay, I will park it for now and we will get back to this later. All right, so I think we're at the end here of my part. I think there were questions, great questions all along. If there are any other questions, feel free to pop them in. But if not, I think Aarti, it's you next.
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, I was just checking. I had saved one last question from the chat box in case that's something you can answer. We've got
Mhm.
about a minute for it. So, where does
Yeah,
the product manager come into picture if we keep changing the vision?
I think we answered
I
that, right?
think I oh no, did I not update that? So sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. We just
Oh,
talked.
all right. Then I think we are good. And what I want to do is I actually want to thank some of our participants who are here, because I've been watching the chat and there have been some questions and some of the other participants have kind of taken the lead and answered it for them. And there's been one really great conversations flowing there. And definitely,
Great.
Amit, I'll send that to you so you can go through it also offline.
Do we still have Susmita on call? Maybe I can take that question now, if you want to
Yeah, you
stay
can
there.
go ahead with that, Amit, if you like. We've got a few minutes, so feel
Yeah,
free to.
yeah. And the question, I think, I don't know if Susmita is still there. Can we get on chat, Susmita, if you're still there, looking for that answer, or if you've left, we don't. Maybe we can take that offline.
She's still
Okay,
there.
she's
She's
back.
still there.
Okay, great, great. So yeah, I think what you've asked here, Susmita, is a very, very fundamental question, right? Are we, and I've seen this in different organizations. Depending on other team, or velocity is suffering. How do we, justify? I have seen examples in some of my previous organizations. Oh, we're creating stories because we want to keep our consistent velocity. And again, I think that's not on the team. I think it's more fundamental systemic problem, where we're not looking at the big picture and seeing, is this a problem of the team not delivering, or is this maybe a planning problem, right? If there is a dependency, and again, I don't know if you've heard of the term invest. um, uh, which is independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable. So that first term, independent, I think every story needs to be independent. And if there is a dependency on a story, I would I would challenge, why start working on that story. So I think that's number one. But again, dependencies can arise during the execution too, right? It's, you can't possibly know everything up front. So that scenario, if something's suffering, the best way to deal with it is, again, stand up, bring it up as an issue, maybe swap it with something else, so you're not kind of stuck there with the story that you're working on, or the deliverable that you have. Ideal scenario, discover dependencies during refinement, grooming, whatever you call it in your organization. Resolve those dependencies before working on it. But if you still come across some dependencies which were unknown earlier but now become real, then escalate it, bring it to fore, work with the product owner to see if there's a different, story that you could swap it out for, because you're stuck here. There are different ways, but I think, again, the bottom line is, have those conversations about, in your retrospectives, oh, last time we got stuck because we did not think of a dependency earlier. How can we groom, refine better, so we don't come across that situation? So again, continuous learning, continuous learning cycle, and ability to appreciate that, surprises will come. And let's not make a habit out of it, and use the retrospective to root cause, five whys, to learn from how do we get better at it, and go from there. um yeah, worst case, it'll be pushed to the next sprint. But again, it's totally fine if it moves to the next sprint. But if it is something that we could do something about, maybe a better planning, better refinement, talk about it in retrospectives, bring some real examples, and see where we can get better at it. All right, I think there's another question,
The last
Divya.
question, yes, the question which I was trying to pose and read out the wrong question. This is it.
Okay.
What happens if product managers and product owners have opposite thoughts on the product vision?
uh Nothing happens. Basically nothing happens. So I think it's possible, but then you have conversations, then you have clarity of thought, um and maybe run experiments. I've seen, um you know for example, one of the previous examples that come to mind based on this is, we were thinking in this organization to build an application for our customers. And this application that we were trying to build was aimed at reducing the customer complaints, because customers didn't know what's their plan, how much um, premium they need to pay. When, if they've submitted a claim, they don't know what's the status of the claim. So this was frustrating customer, right? So what happened was, this team thought a best way to address it is to build an online tool. So someone can just click and log in and click on a whatever page and see what's my plan status, what's my, all those information pieces that you're looking for. So this actually led to an experiment and say, okay, we hope and we think and we assume that this tool, this application that we're trying to build will solve for what the customer is looking for. But then you realize very soon with those experiments, by talking to real people, market research, we invited people to come over. We realized that some of those really frustrated customers are the customers who were like 75, 80 plus. They won't be logging into a system to see that. So no matter how cool an application that we build, we're not going to get the results that we expect to get out of it because it's not going to cater to our customers' need. So having conversations, I think having a lot of collaboration between not just product manager, product owners, everyone, right? Like that's the whole idea of visibility and predictability. You don't want to have a product manager be on a separate planet and a product owner in a separate space, and they're thinking differently. You want these people to come together, they want the teams to come together, you want the stakeholders to come together through a common understanding. And that's why visibility and predictability is so important, because everyone's on the same page. You're not in a space where someone's thinking differently but the team's delivering something really different. And that's why that alignment, visibility, predictability, those three things, when they come together, these difference of opinions, these conversations that need to happen will come to fore, and then you'll get to a common platform. I hope that answered the question. Anything else? Any other questions?
There is one more.
Sure.
If you have time, there is a conflict of responsibilities. What's the role of the business analyst in short when you have a product owner?
Oh, good question. Yes. So I think business analyst is, again, different organizations, different roles and responsibilities, right? But again, classic business analyst role is that of understanding the requirement or backlog or a feature or a user story, working with the team, elaborating it, making sure everybody understands the same way, right? No one's to say that product owner can't do it. No one's to say that a business analyst is an absolute required role or not required role, vice versa, right? So again, I think more than the role, it's important to recognize that what's the responsibility and how does that get fulfilled. Whether it's done by a product owner or a business analyst, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I have seen business analysts translate into a product owner role and they do very well. I have seen product owners come from business. They are able to live by that role as a product owner because they know exactly what business is looking for. They have the right empowerment to take decisions real time, accept, reject work, prioritize work, or backlogs. So I think more than the role itself, as long as a business analyst role, and that's needed, right? Like the team, you can't just give a team a story and have them go conquer the world, right? They're going to need more details. So I've seen organizations not needing business analysts and product owners then a full-time role. And I've also seen business product owners being on multiple teams catering to different teams, but then business analyst kind of fills in and are able to fill in those needs of the team. So the team understands what they're building, why they're building, they decide on how they're building to support the product vision.